Welcome in, guys. It's another quick episode of Scarves and Spikes. Me and Tommy here. We're going to be talking just a little bit about the most recent news, this transfer window.
Breaking news.
Breaking news, yeah. It's the transfer window is officially done. The window's done, but there's still things that can happen. One of the things that happened today, announced a couple hours ago, depending on when you're watching this, was Atlanta United and Erik López have mutually agreed to part ways. Finally, it has happened. They did it with Emerson Hyman last year, so they've freed up some space at the end of the year to do whatever Garth is doing in his kitchen. So, Tommy, what you think, man?
Couldn't we have done this a few weeks earlier? Couldn't we have convinced him to do this right before? Would that have helped?
Not really. I don't think, because I don't think your U22 spot actually comes open until the end of the season.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a timing because of the transfer window and it being closed and maybe opening that slot. I don't know. I'm just curious.
I don't know. But from what I understand, like that, it didn't really matter in terms, like right now, even if there was a window available, I don't think they could bring in a U22 to replace him until the end of the season. So
good news, because I think a lot of people have already been talking about what's our buyout going to be, right? Because Atlanta United always has a buyout at the end of every season. I think most people were expecting it to be Erik López, even though I think there was only 1 year left on the contract.
I think he actually had it until 2025, but I don't know if those are options. Okay. So he had a minute still.
So yeah, you don't have to use it for Erik López anymore. You're back to 3 U22s. Do they still try to clean that up? Garth has been doing a fantastic job of cleaning up contracts, and that's what he said he was going to do from day one. And he said it, right after the transfer window, or I'm sorry, Boca said it right after the transfer window, that they were still trying to clean things up, and they've done a phenomenal job of it. So now you technically are in compliance with the 3 U22s. You could bring Ibarra back at the end of the season if he wants to come back, but you're in a good situation now, and you're getting more contracts off the books this summer. So you could see in this window, you brought on four different players?
Yeah.
4 or 5?
4.
Okay. I heard Garth say 5, and I was confused.
I mean, I guess really it's 6 if you count the 2s. I mean,
yeah, right.
But you had Muyumba, who I think kind of feels like it was earlier, but it really wasn't. Right. And then you had Tiare. You have, oh man, I got to still get used to all these players' names. Who am I missing? There's 2 other ones.
Saba?
Yeah, Saba, and then hang on.
The other guy.
Yeah. Shonda Silva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we're getting there.
With this limited cap space, like, you still have some contracts out here that you're going to be able to clear out after this window, right? Like Osetu's one. Possibly Miles Robinson might also be gone. But you're in a good situation. You are in a very, very good situation going into next season. And you were able to build for this window and not just give up on the season. So, bravo.
And I strongly suspect it's not over yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Either way, whether there's other things coming or the wintertime, like, you are potentially looking at 4, I think, open spots as it stands right now. So just as a quick thing, because this does tie to Erik López, right? You have officially 33 players on this roster. Yeah, 33 players on this roster, including loans and everything else. Diop, this is goalkeepers. Diop, Justin Garces, who's loaned to the 2s, Brad Guzan, Quentin Westberg, right? Defenders, Abram, Noah Cobb, Ronald Hernandez, Brooks Lennon, Aiden McFadden, Efrain Morales, loaned to the 2s, Parada, Miles, Caleb. All right. Midfielders, Almada, Alonso, Barco's still on the roster until the beginning of next season. So, like, this offseason, he'll be officially gone. Etienne,
does that mean there's just a small amount of cap space that's still being allotted to him?
I think so. I don't know for sure. I think because it doesn't go into effect until later. So I imagine all that would drop off come the wintertime.
But what I mean is, like, right now.
Oh, yeah. I would imagine so. I would imagine. So
just making sure.
Etienne, Jay Fortune, Franco Ibarra, who's obviously on loan, Saba Lobjanidze, Tristan Muyumba, Mateus Osetu, Amar Sadic, Santiago Sosa, and Tyler Wolf. And then your forwards, you got Barry, Eric Centeno, loaned to the twos, Machop Chol, Jackson Conway with the twos, Yakamakis, Mosquera, Sean De Silva, who is only on loan until the end of this year, depending on whether or not they pick him up, and then Jamal Tiare. So you think of just the ones that are on the twos, and that's quite a bit that you can knock off. And then you talk about people that like are, on the tail end of their contracts, Miles, Hosetu. That's two big ones right there. But there's lots of space potentially still to come by this offseason. But Erik López was the big one. You talk about the buyout. You don't have to use that. I think that was probably the one that everybody thought. So that being said, who do you use it on now?
I don't know if there's anybody because they've actually been signing good contracts, right? Like Barry's not here at the end of the year. Hosetu, I think they either have an option or he's just out. So you don't have to worry about that. The overreaction would be because you're bringing on other wingers. And if they work out, do you really buy out Etienne after his first year?
Right.
I don't think that would be it. But he does make his cap hit is pretty high.
Yeah.
Who else are you thinking?
I don't know,
Brad?
man. I mean, I don't think so. But that's the thing, man. There's so many options here. It just kind of depends on where you want to go. Obviously, like there's some that are not going to happen. Like Parada, he's on loan too. He's not going to be here either.
Who's on a bad contract? I can't think of anybody.
I mean, Etienne, you could argue.
Right.
And then I don't know when Sosa ends, but you also have to remember he's coming off the U22 initiative regardless. So there's going to be something that happens with Sosa. I don't know what it's going to be. And then, I mean, besides that, if we're being honest, Edwin Mosquera, because he had a 4-year contract, if I'm not mistaken, and is the U22. So if there's one there that's just got a long time left that you want to wipe the clean, slate, make it clean, then he would probably be the one.
I think this all depends on what they want to do with the future of the DP spots, right? Like, do you want 3 U22s or you just want to go with 3 straight DPs? And Garth Lagerwey and Boca have talked about that, that they wanted to be able to get that flexibility. And that's why, Zava's just going to be a DP just for the rest of the season, likely buy him down. So if you're thinking of like the roster building of how they want to do it, they've got that flexibility now at this point. Can you go on, move on? Ibarra obviously has value. Toronto wanted him, right? That's why we were upset, was because he was gone. He has value. So Ibarra probably has value across the league or somewhere else if we wanted to move on from him. And then, then you have Sosa and Mosquera. If you want to just still have one U22, which one? Well, and like you said, Sosa's not going to be that anymore. So maybe I think the only two options. I don't know. Maybe it is Mosquera because you went and signed more. You signed more players to play on the wing. Yeah. So is he really needed on here? I see potential from him. I think a lot of people saw potential. People said he sucked and he was just not good. He came in here without basically playing for half a year.
Yeah.
And he looked dangerous, and we know that his talents are still raw and they could still develop. Felipe said that when he came in, this is a good signing. This is a good signing for Atlanta United. I still believe it could be a good signing.
I mean, I made a bet on it last year with Doug, so
right. Like you watch him, and he likes to attack players, and we don't have a lot of players that do that. So it really does depend on what you want to do with the future of that spot. Do you move Ibarra and then buy out Sosa? You got to hope that Sosa does well enough for these remaining 10 games that he gains value in the world, and then you don't even have to worry about it, and you can just go sell him somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think those are the most likely. I mean, you mentioned Brad. I don't know. It all depends on, kind of what. I don't know that they would do that. I think if they're going to rebuild the goalkeeping core, you're probably not going to do anything with Westberg and Diop, or at least one of them. And then you move Justin Garces up or whatever you got to do. I don't think you would have to worry too much about that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely plenty of options. Mosquera, I agree. I think he's more suited now to be able to develop, and this is all in theory on paper, under the guys that are here right now that just came in as experienced wingers from overseas. I think he's more he's in a better position now to really learn the game. He was not going to learn the game playing behind Luis Araujo. That's just
Yeah.
two different style players, and he's kind of an enigma anyway. Mosquera and Sabo Lobjanidze, like they seem very similar in their play style. So obviously one's more refined. I don't think it's the worst thing to keep him as a U22 anyway. But yes, it all depends on what they want to do with those DP spots. So there's options. The biggest takeaway here is the fact that the front office is clearing space that is much needed. And they've been saying it, be patient. Garth said it when he came in, be patient, see what you can do and clear out, like you always say, the bad contracts, the things that they probably shouldn't have done in the first place. Erik López is always going to be looked at, whether we want to admit it or not, is probably one of the worst signings that Atlanta has had. We can talk about, Kubo and Adam John and some other folks as well, but like just the amount of money, Jurgen Damm as well, rest in peace. But the amount of money, again, was just way too much for what you got out of him and what you even probably thought you should have got out of him.
Well, and I saw some hot takes on Twitter real quick about, Atlanta United ruined this kid's career. It's a combination of things. And I take it to three things. COVID was number one.
Yeah.
He signed in the summer of 2020. So the world was completely unknown of how long it was going to be shut down. You were just starting to open up, the leagues again, if that, without fans. He comes in and, there's talk of, the U22 position, but financially, Atlanta United could not add him onto the roster. And then I think there was an issue with him going to the twos or loaning him out, or there was something. I think he eventually played for the twos. Maybe I'm wrong there.
No, he did.
Okay. So, but during that time, they promised him that, from what I remember of the story, is they promised him that he was going to be playing with the first team. And they mentioned that there were other competitions. I think we all knew with what was going on in the United States at that time that the U.S. Open Cup did not have the money to be able to run this tournament because of, think about all the tests, the COVID tests that they had to do during that time. Like that tournament does not have enough money. The tournament's on Bleacher Report right now. They don't have enough money to be giving everybody COVID tests from there. So if you were watching the world, you knew that tournament wasn't going to be happening. Atlanta United was in Champions League. I think they were already down 3-0.
Yep, because that was the last game they played before everything shut down.
Right. So you're going the second leg down 3-0. You're probably not coming back from that. I think it's partially on the manager as well, or Erik López's, agent, right? Like, I think that he's. You should know this. If we knew this, like when I remember reading that, like the story from Doug from a while back, I was like, what other tournaments are there? Like, what else is this kid gonna play in? This doesn't make sense. And you did see him play in that second leg of the Champions League and looked okay. But yeah, it's been a bad situation for him overall. You just remember like seeing. I followed him on Instagram, and he was just hanging out around the Braves stadium, like the Braves were making their playoff run at that time. So he just posted pictures around the city of Atlanta, just not doing anything. And then he comes into the team the next year under Heinze, scores a banger of a goal, a little flick with the back foot against Nashville, and that was the Erik López, story.
That was it.
That was it. He scored a nice goal, and you're like, all right, Erik López is going to be something. And then he goes to the twos like this year and looks good.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. Like just it's bad.
Can't
just
catch
a whole
a break.
bad situation. No, yeah, and that's it. He just can't catch a break. It's a combination of just terrible advice I think that he got from there. He probably should have never signed with Atlanta United to begin with. But when Atlanta United comes with the bag, and they come with a very long term, which was what the old front office used to do.
Yeah.
You take the money. You don't feel bad for these kids because they're getting offered a ton of money. I would take that money anytime.
And I think that's what's worth remembering too. And I'll hit on this because I've seen this brought up a lot today since this news broke. You essentially had, like you said, a front office that's going around giving out. We can argue about like what the reasoning was behind the contracts that they did and everything else. It doesn't matter. They gave the kid a lot of money. He was hyped up, relatively speaking, and he had a long contract. He was young, and then of course you're coming off of really, really good seasons with Atlanta, right, from before. So the hype is there. Admittedly, like, you want to go if you're coming from another league, whether it's South America or whatever, you see that and you're like, all right, cool, I want to go be a part of that. Then you get here, like you said, everything else goes haywire, just 100% haywire for the kid. And now they're terminating his contract. And everybody's like, why would he walk away from that kind of money? Well, I think it's much easier when you take all those factors into consideration to convince a guy, all right, look, whether he's got options in the next year or whatever, we're not going to pick up your options. You're going to be done after this year. We'll go ahead and give you now. We'll cut you loose. Allows you to go and talk with whatever clubs you want to talk to. Do whatever you got to do. Let your agent do what he's got to do, whatever, to find out what your next step is, because you're 100% not going to be a part of our plans going forward, period. You have money. We're going to be paying you for the rest of the year, whatever it is. So go and get a head start now. You look at what happened with Emerson Hyman. He left. They mutually agreed to terminate his contract. Then he kind of went MIA for a little bit. Then he popped up training with LAFC in the preseason. And then he kind of went MIA again. And then he makes a comeback to Memphis and has taken off. I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but he has taken off with them. So, like, it's not the death knell for anybody in this situation, but I think honestly it probably benefits Erik López a little bit better in this situation, because he does have the talent. He's young. He's younger than Emerson Hyman, obviously, but he has the ability now to go out and get out from under all the craziness that has been Atlanta United, COVID, and everything else, and just start fresh somewhere. He'll land somewhere. I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he'll do fine. But Atlanta and Erik López just did not mix well at all, and that's okay. It'd be what it be. So, all right. So that's the news. That's the most recent news of the day. We will be back for our normal episode next week, as usual, 7:00 on Wednesday. I don't believe there's anything else that's going to cause that to change. So back as usual, we'll be working on some folks to come hang out with us, with me, Tommy Sidney. If you guys aren't already a part of it, go check out patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. We literally just got done recording another bit for that as well, talking about all kinds of fun stuff, including Ted Lasso and sports movies. So go jump in there. We'll be doing watch alongs as usual. Got a big one coming up when Atlanta plays. I think we're doing Seattle, right?
10:30.
Yep, 10:30, 10:39 kickoff.
Scarves and Spikes after dark.
After dark, baby. So, all right, yeah. And as usual, like, subscribe. We appreciate it. Appreciate the support. And we will see y'all next time.
See you guys.